Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
I'm Dr. Mark Davini. Welcome all.
Okay, we're going to dig in today to a topic that I think you'll all enjoy. Why? Because it's about increasing your staff's productivity.
Exactly. To quote an old saying, the teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes, and that's the truth.
It's so true. It's
Takes a village.
Oldie, but
Takes a
goodie.
village.
That's right. Oh, oldie but goodie. Let's just go that way.
So when I hear this, I think, well, if I increase productivity, that's got to increase revenue, doesn't it?
Exactly. And in this day and age, you put so much of your financial investment into your staff. It's important to make sure that there is a return on that investment.
Right. But when we're talking about this, let's first establish what are going to be your clear goals and expectations. And the title of our podcast episode is productivity, not income, because one would assume it begets the other, but let's focus in on the productivity and have the revenue come up in the, behind it.
It should be a byproduct of their increased productivity.
So when we're talking about, Doc, clear goals and expectations, is that just for the doctor or is that for everybody?
It should be an office concept, right? It's everybody. It's the office goals, the office expectations. Everybody has a job to do, and everybody should have a clearly defined job to do. And all those jobs should be cogs in the wheel, to make sure that everything just turns the way it's supposed to turn. And by doing so smoothly and efficiently and all of those things we're going to talk about, it becomes better.
It reminds me of for years, probably when maybe not when I first started the billing company, but shortly thereafter, I've had this mantra. I put it on posters in the office. It was detail, efficiency, speed. And when I brought on a new staff person, I gave him this concept. I said, I never want you to sacrifice detail for efficiency or speed. Get the detail first, then work on your efficiency, and the speed will come.
Exactly. Learn it the right way.
Yeah.
And then move on.
So when it comes to productivity, I think of it this way, because I'm not the clinician. I'm the chiropractic assistant, right? If my doctor came to me and was talking about making these goals and expectations, wouldn't it be fun? This is crazy me. Wouldn't it be fun if the doctor allowed me some input on what that productivity goal means, whether it's something we're currently doing, or maybe the doctor's giving me an input on adding something new.
Exactly.
That would be fun.
Want them to participate in the business. Again, we always talk about separating the business from the practice of chiropractic, and staff obviously is involved in both, but they very readily embrace the practice side of things. They like talking with the patients. They like getting them in or whatever. They like seeing them and interacting with them. But they also have to be made to understand that it's also a business and that there are certain things that need to be completed, need to be done in an efficient way, or need to be done in an effective way in order for the business to continue.
When we do our online or in-person training of chiropractic assistants, the clinical training of chiropractic assistants to prepare them for the CCCA nationally or just in the office to document their training. Oftentimes, tell me if I'm wrong, Doc, but we'll be going through a certain clinical procedure and they're like, well, we don't do this in our office, right?
Yeah.
We don't do this, whether it's intersegmental traction or posture analysis or unattended stim, whatever.
Right.
But my answer to them is, well, wouldn't it be cool if you brought this back to your doctor to say, look what I've learned. What do you think?
I now understand it. I can assist with it. I'm even told it helps the patients. You're the doctor. I won't tell you, but I'm told in this class that there is certain value to it, both for the patient and for the practice. And I can do it. I can help. And I can be part of it.
Oftentimes, they like some of these new things that they haven't been exposed to. And guess what, docs? Now they're professionals in a career, not just people in a job at your front desk.
Now they also have an investment in your practice.
Yeah,
it flips the other way now.
It's an emotional buy-in, as it were, right?
Exactly. Because one way or another, you have to try and get your staff to be engaged in your practice. So if you're looking for someone to just perform certain functions, duties, so to speak, and you don't care how those duties are performed, I don't imagine how that would even fit in a chiropractic practice. But, if that's what you're hoping for, then what you do is you neglect your staff. You don't give them any goals. You don't give them any incentive emotionally or otherwise. You don't make them feel like they're part of the team. You don't do all those things we're going to mention here. Yeah, they'll do just that. They'll do the crappy job that you expect them to do. But if you want them to do a better job, you have to embrace your staff. That doesn't mean relinquish responsibility to them that you don't know. Ultimately, you are chief cook and bottle washer here, and it's your practice, and there's no way that you should ever blame a staff member for something going wrong in your practice. Because if a staff member does something that's not correct in your office, there's a very, very good chance they either didn't know they were doing it incorrectly, or they weren't trained well enough to avoid that scenario.
So when you're thinking about these goals, let's turn up the New England accent for a second. You want to set SMAT goals.
What's a SMAT?
SMAT.
I know what SMART is. I don't know what SMART is.
Smart.
All right. I will date myself, but back when they had Get Smart as a TV show, and the character, the evil guy was the Claw. And he had an accent, and he'd go, not claw. Well, that's what I get all the time. Yeah. It's not Mark, it's Mark.
Mac. So that's actually an acronym. If people could understand the New England accent, SMART goals, right? What does that mean? SMART.
Well, I can get to the specific and the measurable and the achievable, but I don't have an R in my spot.
Relevant?
Relevant. There we go. So all you people outside of Massachusetts, there's actually an R in that word.
Yeah.
And then timed bound.
Right. We need an H for the New England SMAT, right? Instead of an R.
We need an H in there for helpful. How's that, huh?
Yeah, there you go.
In New England, it's called helpful.
But, when you're setting these goals, like the old saying is, a goal without a plan is just a wish. Right?
That, yeah.
So
I always like that.
If you're going to set a goal, how are you going to get there? You need to plan for this, just like when you do your New Year's resolutions, if you do them, right?
Right. And you have to have a communication with your staff. And I am totally, completely, and always shocked at how many offices don't have staff meetings.
Yeah. I can say that I don't have them with my staff as much as I used to. But I have experienced staff. It's no excuse, but I can see where when you get lax in running your business versus your practice, it will happen.
The communication you're asking for them to help you achieve certain goals that will be stated, where they stated, in certain ways that you need to perform certain functions, which means you have to have training, and that you want them to feel part of the process, which means you have to communicate with them on a regular basis. I mean, everything that comes from staff meetings, team building, you maybe do functions that bring you together, but they don't have them at all. I'm not talking about now, never, once in a while or whatever. But when I practiced, we had our staff meeting every week, Monday morning. I didn't even start treating until 2:00 on a Monday. We had our staff meeting almost the very first.
The cynical side of me says you needed to recover from the hangover. That's why it was no Monday mornings. But
here's a clinical thought, right? When you come back from your weekend and you go to your voicemail, and there are all those people who had that first or second or third or fourth or fifth appointment of the morning, and something came up and they're asking to change it. No recovery to that appointment, is there? Now, all of a sudden, your numbers for that week just went down by that many. But was not to say we weren't in the office first thing. Not to say we weren't answering the phone first thing, but we were all there getting ready for the week. Getting ready means taking all the voicemails and making all the calls back and putting them in for the afternoon because they missed the 9:00 appointment or they had to change the 9:00 appointment, which you can never recover. But then we also had our staff meetings. And in the staff meetings, we'd sit there and had a whole agenda every week. And part of it would be goal setting. Part of it would be reviewing patients that might be challenging or maybe not.
Clinically or otherwise?
Maybe rewarding patients that were exceptional. But we talked about it. Everybody had to be on the same page so that we could just move together as a well-oiled machine.
How about that patient that calls on a Friday, 30 minutes before you're closing on a holiday weekend and says, "Doc, I really, really need to get in because it's been hurting me all week and now I'm calling."
Again, everybody, we always talk about defining your practice, right? And when I was in practice, I never took a new patient on a Friday afternoon. Just wasn't my thing because it's exactly that scenario. If it was a new patient, if it was an existing patient that was under regular care and something happened, I always put myself out for them. If it was a patient who I hadn't seen in 4 years, they got the Monday appointment.
Monday afternoon.
And, with instructions for ice or whatever, because it kind of came out to be, I have those patients do everything I ask of them. And sometimes things happen. And what they ask of me is to be available. Perfect. No problem. But if somebody who doesn't do what I ask them to do, and then there's a scenario where something happens because they weren't doing what I asked them to do, then my responsibility to them was a little bit less. And if it was a new patient, guaranteed you're staring at a patient who will never return. Because if you bring them in, you go through, especially the ones that you might even go on the weekends for, and you do everything, you treat them, and chiropractic works, and they feel better, and they don't come back. It was just bad management. And to me, I would rather have the patient understand who and what I am and what I do. And that goes back to staff, because I'm the one with them the least, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe not that
when all
first
is said
visit,
and
but yeah.
done, so if somebody's going to understand who and what I am and what I do, it's going to require the staff to understand who I am, what I am, and what I do.
Okay, so goals have been set, let's say, and again, it could be
In a
you as
staff meeting.
Yeah. But I mean, you as a doctor in your office have to decide on this productivity increase. Maybe it's first analyzing where you feel there could be improvement. Maybe it's on your current procedures. Maybe not enough money's coming in through the front desk, or maybe the insurance accounts receivable has been lacking, or patient statements haven't gone out regularly, or you want to add something new. Whatever it is, it's up to you. Whatever goals you decide to make and plan to reach those goals, you should have some way of measuring how that plan and those goals are going along the way.
Oh, statistics are critical. You need to know your practice. And again, I am surprised at how many people don't even know their accounts receivable. They don't know how many patients they see on an average. They don't know their average patient cost. They don't know their average patient profit. They don't, based on volume and capacity, because they don't even know their capacity. It's a happening. I had a friend that always said, is your practice just a happening? And what we're saying is, in order for you to increase your productivity, number one, you have to have a well-oiled machine, which means you now have to have a well-informed, well-trained staff that are all on the same page, moving in all the same direction. Don't be a tug of war with your staff. You're pulling one way and they're pulling the other. Listen to them.
You're making a good point, because maybe increased productivity might need to start with just introspection, looking within the practice. If you don't know the statistics in general, on average, that the doctor just mentioned, probably should dig into those a little bit. And then if you see deficiencies, be very careful how you're communicating those to your front desk or your staff, depending on where maybe the bucket is a little too leaky,
Right.
Because if you haven't cared that much about it before and now you start caring because, the wisdom that we are imparting, or whatever it is, it may come off, you're going to put them on a defensive when maybe you don't mean to. You're just saying, hey, I want to improve things.
Right. And that all can be avoided and satisfied if you accept one operating principle. Everything that goes on in that office is your responsibility, and everything that goes wrong in that office is your fault.
The Captain Kirk approach.
Exactly. Lead from the top down.
Yeah.
If you're going to look for scapegoats, it'll never work. If you think they're doing something wrong, at least accept the responsibility that they might be doing something wrong because they either don't know how to do it right, or you're not monitoring them properly to make sure they do it right, or they haven't been trained well enough to keep doing it right. But it's your fault. If I lost a patient in my practice, the first thing I asked is, what could I have done better? Or, personally, what did I do wrong that made that patient feel they wanted to leave me? Where in the process did something happen? Or they could.
What took them so long to leave?
Or what took them so
I've been trying.
Thank God. Because sometimes patients do demand something you're unwilling to give, and that's okay.
So it goes back to communication. And again, if you're seeing a leaky bucket somewhere in your office and you're finally, identifying it, the best approach, in my opinion, is to blame yourself first so that you disarm your staff person about getting defensive.
Exactly. Because more than likely, it is your fault, like I said. It's your office. Everything goes
Staring at me
in
again.
the way. Everything goes in the way you set. You are the captain of the ship. Yeah, there are people that might steer the ship. There are people who might maintain the ship and fuel the ship and do all those things. But the bottom line is you're the captain of the ship. And nothing goes on or should go on without you knowing, being in control of, and directing.
It's like I fly a lot. You fly a lot. The pilot
On planes.
Yeah. Yeah, right. The pilot does their pre-check inspection. And unfortunately, recently I've been in a lot of planes that need something. But the pilot may not know exactly, I wouldn't say even how to fix it. They're not going to fix it, but they know it needs to be fixed. They know it's wrong. And the pilot will review and inspect the maintenance person's work to know that it's been done right. And it doesn't matter what it is. The pilot knows,
takes the responsibility.
they're familiar enough to know whatever the issue is. So when we're talking about these like open door policies, you want to encourage your staff to be able to give you transparent feedback, even if it's about you.
I remember going into an office and inspecting it, and I've mentioned this before, where a patient, I'm standing there observing, and one of the patients comes to the front desk, and it's a multiple doctor office. And the patient says, well, I want to schedule my wife with, for an appointment. Which doctor should I pick for my wife? And the staff member said, I don't know. I haven't had either. Is that a big gap in what should not have ever happened? Take that look off your face.
The reason I'm
take that look off your face.
The reason I'm laughing is because my brain. What if the CA said, "Well, go with Doctor B because he's less handsy."
Yeah.
Isn't that awful?
Well, that's what and again, poor languaging, poor training.
Yeah.
Does the doctor even know that's going on? Because a lot of times it just happens. It's like David Singer used to always tell the story about the one staff member who was the front desk who would, collect the copays.
Yeah.
And the patient walked up and he said, I'm listening, my staff, because I'm always monitoring my staff, he would say. And all of a sudden I hear the patient walk up to the front desk and she goes, you got any money? He said, no, she was so sincere with it that it actually worked for her. But can you imagine walking up to someone and they go, you got any money? He was from New York, so I get my Massachusetts
If I put it in the coffer, it works for me. But
right. So the bottom line is that productivity, if your staff isn't producing what you want to produce and how you want it produced, take the responsibility.
Yeah, find the pain points. And frankly, when I'm training staff, I always say mistakes are learning opportunities. So if you make a mistake or we find a mistake and I teach you how to fix it, either you won't make the mistake again or you'll fix it. No one will ever know it was a mistake. Right? I said, but if it's the same mistake over and over, we've got one of two problems. I'm not training you correctly or you ain't getting it.
And if they ain't getting it, maybe they shouldn't be there. Here's a perfect thing, Paul, and you'll appreciate it. You can run with this, right? How many doctors go to the CA? I'm going to take on my billing in-house.
Oh.
Talk to so-and-so and learn everything you need to know to do the billing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll talk to you in a couple months.
Yeah. I mean, we've had that happen in the billing company. And, I would say more than half the time I get a call back in a few months. And then we decide if we want to take them back or not. Because the perceived work and knowledge for billing from that provider is small, meaning they just think you're pushing buttons, you're uploading this, you're downloading that, and you don't need to know anything else. I had a provider, I'm not going to say who it is. I had a provider who we did their billing for years, and then they had somebody in-house. They said, I'm taking it in-house. And they took the billing back for a few years. Then I get a phone call saying, it was a mistake. I want to come back. That person was leaving or left. So we took back, she was a very nice person. I was happy to take her back. And come to find out, the 2+ or 3 years, maybe more, that we didn't do their billing, that staff person didn't know coding or modifiers. She didn't get paid for an exam like the whole time because she adjusted on the same day and didn't put the right modifier on the exam. She didn't even know what a modifier was. I had to use that as a learning moment for that provider.
Okay, guess what? This just saved you the cost of admission.
Right.
Right.
I mean, and so from someone with experience, it was very basic. Someone without experience, it was very advanced. Didn't know it. So when we're talking about increasing productivity, make sure, I would say, if you're bringing something in that's new or unfamiliar, learn it, understand it, make sure your staff understands it.
Oh, they're going to love this one. And you'll appreciate it because you're going to tell it. So we're doing an inspection in the office.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm over there with the documentation and some of the compliance aspects, and you're doing the compliance and the billing and coding.
Mm-hmm.
You're sitting here with a person that's been in this business for many, many years.
Oh, if I know where you're going with this, right?
So take it away.
Yeah, right. Not only in chiropractic was fairly new, but billing for decades in different specialties, right? You're talking about the site location one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this office had 2 locations, and nary a way to bill the second location at all or report it. So they were good size practice in both locations. Not once ever did a claim go out indicating where the service was rendered at that second location. Not once. Now you say to yourself, well, they're getting paid. Who cares? Well, first of all, if it's Medicare, you may have missed an opportunity for better reimbursement if they're outside the geographical area of the first office. And 2, what about that thing called compliance?
And 3, what about fraud?
Fraud. Oh, yeah.
Now, here's even a better part, right? You're talking to this person who's been doing this for decades, right? Complaining about a certain aspect of the program.
Oh, and as a clearinghouse I've never used, but let's go in. Boom. Well, the EHR I have used, so it was fun to give her tips. What I appreciated about her was she was willing and open to more information.
But you actually showed her ways to shortcut her time.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't help myself. We were there for an inspection.
Using a program that she had been using for years in an industry that she's been doing for decades. Basically, what we're saying is she wasn't even up on her own program because somewhere, somehow, in a galaxy far, far away, somebody said, just press this button to do this thing. Right. and never once thought about looking to ways to make that more efficient and streamline it so that she could be more productive in getting her bills out in a more timely fashion so that the doctor can get paid. And
unfortunately, I never understood this. I never understood this, that so many staff people, they're taught a certain way and they do 1 through 10 and never understand why they're doing 1 through 10. Because if they did, like when I was first taught on a DOS system, I was told never to put, it was either true or false in box 10, which was auto, workers' comp, or slip and fall. I was told 100% of the time, never change it from false to true. And I said, well, what if they're in an auto accident? Never change it from false to true. I was brand new and I'm asking the question, and it didn't take long for then a carrier to say, well, you sent in this claim, but it's not related to the workers' comp because you didn't check off the workers' comp. And I'm like, that would be changing it from false to true. But I was told not to do that from someone who had 20 something years experience. And I'm like, why are people not asking the question of why am I doing 1 through 10, not what is 1 through 10? Because then you can, as you say, try to look for efficiencies and better ways of doing things.
Right. So you have to help your staff become productive. That's not something that just happens. There are self-motivators for sure. But generally speaking, you have to bring these people from the mindset that this is just a job for a paycheck to it's a career and a life's goal and a life's ability, a life's talent, a life's skill they can develop. And if you're not doing that with your staff, then you can't be disappointed if they're not producing what you want to produce.
And just like you aren't for every patient, every patient is not for you, every staff person isn't positioned to be in particular roles. Maybe it's time to take a look at what kind of staff person is that? Are they better served in a different role in the office?
Yeah. Again, one of the things I am shocked at never happens. I said, you do at least annual reviews on your staff's performance. No. So how would you expect them to know?
I do it every day when I don't yell at them. What are you talking about?
How are they supposed to know if they're not satisfying you? You just withhold a raise, and then that starts the whole rumor mill of what's going on. I said, you need to make sure you're in communication with your staff, number one, as a staff, and then as your staff person, as an individual. So if you're not doing reviews, that's also a big flaw.
I can say that in general, a lot of the research out there when it asks about, employee satisfaction in different types of jobs is the lack of supervisor feedback is always at the top of the list.
I didn't know they were unhappy with me.
Or I didn't know what would make them happy or satisfied with my performance.
Because they never told me what I needed to do, what I needed to learn, how to change it, whatever.
And be careful of this because this happens all the time in the billing company. When providers are slow, they'll call. What's going on? My AR, blah, blah, blah. When times are good, the phone don't ring. And I say to my staff, the patient account managers, I'm like, don't take it personal. That is your client satisfaction feedback is when they're not calling about complaining about something, because they're not, this is human nature. They're not going to do it. They're not going to say, hey, I had a great collection week. Thanks so much.
Yeah, exactly. So if you did annual reviews, it
Actually,
gives you
I'll
that
say,
opportunity to pat them on the back, as well as say, this would be a nice area to work on so that we can improve our productivity.
We do have a few billing clients that do show gratitude in general ways or other, but that's another big thing is being grateful and have gratitude for your staff and what they do for you. Even if we want to improve them, start off with the gratitude of what they've been doing for you and move forward from there.
Exactly. So just in kind of a summary, clear goals and expectations, effective communication, make sure they have skills that you can develop through training. Optimize and process your processes and tools. And what we mean by that is, do they know the program? Like the example we just gave. positive work environment, instead of you walking in there going, oh, geez, can we just get that last patient out so I can go home? Or you're running out the door before they do. Every time. You're showing up late after they do. Every time. You have to lead by example.
That is so true. And I think about it in my own life, and I'm like, am I leading by example? I try to lead by example. I certainly do, and give those positive feedback and, empower them to feel like they have control over what and how they do within the parameters of getting the job done as well as they can, right?
Exactly.
Give them some room.
Yeah.
Give them some room, not only to grow, but to stumble, and you pick them up and bring them forward.
Be clear about what you expect from them and give them an opportunity to be clear about what they expect from you.
Yeah, it's an investment both in time. There's an emotional investment for sure. There's a financial investment. But, I'm like analyzing what we just talked about and going, did we really hit the nail on increasing staff productivity? Because I feel like we digressed a little bit. But I think those digressions were playing into to the whole point that if you're focusing on increasing your revenue, you're missing the point, I think. Increasing staff productivity, it's like my mantra, work on the detail, which will lead into the efficiency, which will lead into the speed.
Exactly. Teamwork makes the dream work. But if your dream is one thing and their dream is something else, you're in a tug of war. One's pulling in one direction, the other's pulling in the other direction. And a lot of times we feel, because we've seen it so many times and you've experienced it personally, that being a staff member in a small office is a very difficult position because you have so many different hats.
Yeah.
So if they don't know what's expected of them, or if they don't know their job well enough to perform it, each hat, they have to be trained in each hat, and know exactly what it is that you want from them and what the goals are, like we keep saying, and then a way to ask for more training, more understanding, maybe more pay at some point when they fulfill all that you told them you expect of them.
But yes, I mean, compensation with respect to pay is something that you should reward your staff with, but they're not just looking for that. They want that validation. They want that positive reinforcement. They want to know that they're meeting or exceeding expectations and that you are thankful.
Right.
That they're there.
We have a CA course. You mentioned it at one point. We have a CA course where it trains them on how to do certain aspects of being a clinical CA. And it also allows them to take the national certification through Federation of Chiropractic Licensing Board. The only real national certification that a CA can have, the triple CA. And sometimes we present that to our docs and say, well, this is a course as a member your staff can take free. It's a 24-hour course.
The prep course for the national
course for they pass that, they pass it with us, then they're now able to sit the national board. You should be encouraging that. That's team building. That's giving them a self-esteem for learning something that isn't out there on the street. A skill they can take with them and carry forever. A certificate to put on the wall and say, I am certified by a national agency that I know something and I know it well enough to get this certificate. And you want to be able to put that out to them that this is real. This is not a job. It's a calling. If you do it well enough, you're helping people. You're helping them get well through chiropractic and understand chiropractic in its fullest.
Well said. So, docs, increasing staff productivity, probably not what you thought this episode was going to be like, but we hope you got something out of it.
It starts in the head first, then details follow. So just remember, strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. That's for you, that's for your staff, and that's for your patients. Albert Einstein said that. Smart guy.
Love it. Yeah.
Smart guy.
Yeah. He knew something about something. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
Dr. Mark Davini, thank you all.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.